Labor Talks, recorded at Chippewa Valley Community Television in Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
Hello and welcome to Labor Talks. Today's special guest is Judy Gatlin. Judy currently serves as the Community Services Chair for the Greater West Central Area Labor Council. Welcome to Labor Talks, Judy.
Lori.
Glad you could come. How about we start with you telling us a little bit about you?
Okay, well, I'm a longtime resident of Eau Claire community. I moved here in 1979 to go to school and never left. I have one adult son. I've been employed at the University of Wisconsin, Eau Claire for 24 years, going on 25 years. I'm active in my community. I'm active in labor and other social justice things that go on. I can tell you I'm really in love with my state. I love everything about Wisconsin. I like nature a lot, like to do things outside.
There's been this thing on Facebook lately where you can judge. It puts some information in and it tells you where you should live.
Yes.
And mine keeps coming up with Washington State, and I'm like, wait a minute, Washington State doesn't have the things we have here.
No, Washington State's very similar to Wisconsin. They're both very progressive. They both states have a history of starting lots of policies that are favorable to the workers. And Washington State is full of natural resources and parks and everything. So.
But I'm like you. I love my state.
Yeah.
And I'd rather change and correct the problems that we have to make it a better state than to move and say, oh, I'm just going to go somewhere else.
Right. Right.
So.
And it's so homey and familiar. You know, I have a family. When I moved to Eau Claire, my family moved back to the state of Indiana. And the difference in just your daily, like going to the grocery store or the gas station, people are just less friendly. And now my family has all moved back to Wisconsin. So it's kind of cool.
It takes them moving out of here. Yeah. Like our family moved to Oregon, and then they came back. So, and you're right, there's just a totally different atmosphere here that way. Judy, in your opinion, how damaging has Governor Walker's budget been to the university system?
Well, the damages are still occurring. It seems like, because I do work at the university, so many changes are taking place in trying to battle what resources they haven't given us. We're trying to make a strategy, make a plan based on things that aren't there. Everything's so far out of our control. About the time we decide, or administration at the university decides to make a change, or cut a program, or merge a program, something else comes out of Madison affecting UW system. One of the damaging effects that it has really discombobulated the universities working together. You know, all 13 of the full-time campuses used to have more of a collaboration, more of a connect. Now they're kind of like each one is off in its own silo doing its own thing.
In competition for the same funds.
In competition for the same funds. And of course, I would say also this isn't just the governor's budget. You know, there's a whole other set of policymakers agreeing with him and promoting what the damages that he's putting forth. It's had such a ripple effect, and I think we're going to see a lot more at UW system in the next biennium. I've personally, in the building that I work with, we've lost a lot of great educators. We've lost a lot of institutional history. The students are the ones that are losing out in the end, even though the barking from the governor's office is everything is done for the students. And even within our own administration at UWEC, you know, the student is the focus of everything we do. And you have that transition where it may, for a couple of years, it may see, everybody can be complaining because we used to do it this way and now we do it that way. But eventually, because of the way a university operates, those students graduate and the new ones come in, they don't remember, they don't know the difference. But those of us that have worked there for so long,
we've seen it.
And taking our civil service seriously, that, you know, it's more than just a job. We feel like we're contributing to people that will give back to the state and back to their communities. So.
And the sad thing is how many of them are actually staying here because of the other problems that have been going on in Wisconsin. Like where I live, everybody works, they go across the border. That pay raise difference between here and there is what's driving that. And then because of that, then Wisconsin's in a major shortage for good qualified workers.
And too often we hear that they say students don't pay attention, but the students I work with do pay attention. They're busy, they struggle economically, you know, it's hard to work and pay your tuition, but they are paying attention.
And knowing that they're straddling themselves with such huge school loan debts, they need to know where they're going to go. So it's good to see them looking forward, but we don't want them to bypass us. Are there any steps that you would recommend that we could take to make the situation better?
Specifically at the UW?
Or even in our state?
One thing that I think is core to economic development anywhere is we need to increase the minimum wage. A full-time job should be about security, not survival. And I just don't understand where the disconnect comes from. When people work and earn money, they turn those wages around and invest them in their community. And I just don't understand why that core initiative can't be started somehow.
We have to start it somewhere. When you've got people that are working and living, not even at a livable wage, but at minimum wage, which in our state is so low, how can they raise a family? How can they continue to put money into the community, into their property? We raise the minimum wage, as you said, it's going to put money back out into our economy, but it's also going to allow people to spend money on their homes. It's going to raise the property values.
Right.
All the way around, it's a win-win. I also don't agree with the trickle down. We know it doesn't work.
It hasn't worked. Trickle down economics is an illusion that is 40 years out of date, and it hasn't worked yet.
I mean, to me, Walmart's a really good example of that. You know, we
There's
know
many.
that money has not trickled down from the 5 people that own it, that are 5 of the richest billionaires in the world. And even though they've raised the minimum wage at Walmart, they have not increased the hours that their people work. So therefore, they are not full-time employees. They don't get benefits, so they're still operating at poverty level below. And you and I are paying for their benefits. Okay, you are currently running for the county board from the 14th district.
Yes.
What issues do you feel are the most important for Eau Claire County to focus on?
Well, again, I go back to a living wage. I think that the county could start something there where we could initiate a living wage for anybody who is contracted by the county or that works for the county. Our county, unfortunately, outsources lots of care for people who can't care for themselves, the elderly, the disabled, the mentally ill. And and I'm not an expert on it yet. I still have lots of research to do. I'm new to running for county board. But they contract big corporations to provide health care, provide home care. So these home care workers are struggling with making such a low wage, and so they're constantly looking for other work for a higher wage, and a lot of times the person getting cared for gets really close to the person and shows progress, and then that person moves on. So the people that are getting the care are really behind supporting a living wage as well, living wage ordinance.
Well, and it's hard to spend that much money to train someone to only have them turn around and leave and go somewhere else, and you got to start all over again. And that's another thing that I think corporations need to understand.
Well, corporations don't think about people, they think about the bottom line. A corporation is there to make a profit. So we need to see what we can do to soften up that kind of mentality, that it's not about profit, it's about people. I think investing in people, I feel that is, when they talk about infrastructure, investing and caring for people who can't care for themselves, I think could be a huge investment, but it would take somebody stepping forward and not interested in profit. And and more interested in a greater good.
Well, and you know the old saying that happy workers are productive workers.
That's correct.
If they're sitting there worrying about, you know, a bill that's got to be paid, or can I do some overtime today to pay this off, or they're sick and at work where they shouldn't be because they should be
Right.
home taking care of themselves or their family, it makes a big difference to the quality of what work is coming out of them.
And they become loyal to their employer. You know, the whole idea of the employer and management at the table is they both have the same goal, to succeed in whatever you're doing in there, whether it's getting a student to graduate in 4 years or getting the product at the end of the line, you know, for the least amount of cost, keeping the workers safe, things like that. That I struggle with where that disconnect comes from.
You've been active with the Alliance for Strong Communities as well as other progressive groups in our area. Is there anything that you would like to offer to the listening audience regarding any of those groups?
Well, the Alliance for Strong Communities specifically is an organization, nonpartisan, brought together people that started seeing negative things happening in our state because of budget cuts, and thought that we should bring intelligent people together to talk about it. And instead of us against them mentality, it's really trying to promote some civil discourse. Other organizations in other states have organized around that same thought. Starting at a local level, you know, we can't change the budget that comes down from the state, but on a local level, if the more we talk to people, the more we understand their issues, even though sometimes their issues are different than ours. If we all come to the table and talk about it, we could get some resolution and some progress. You know, progress is what we're all looking for. It's instead of being stagnant and stale, things have got to get better, and we have more in common than we think. Don't have in common.
And people, when they say that people don't like what they don't understand, and the two sides are fighting, if they're at least open to communication, they can understand, like you said, that they aren't that much different. They're not that far apart. And
being involved in these organizations, you stay so informed. Oftentimes people get no fault of their own as they're struggling to, you know, with bare bones survival, working, trying to earn a living and get their kids off to school and supper on the table. They don't have time to keep abreast of things that are happening. So a lot of this 15 Now, as well as Alliance for Strong Communities and my labor union, we do a lot to promote and make people aware of what's going on, you know, talking to people.
It would be nice to see maybe a webinar or some type of a class where other communities can learn from Eau Claire, where they've already had this going for a couple of years, so that we could start those same type of communications in other places as well. And then maybe we could turn our state around.
Yes.
As Community Services Chair for the Greater West Central Area Labor Council, you've been very active with Labor Day, Christmas with Santa, which we do for underprivileged children, the free fishing day for kids also. Are there other areas in the community that you would like to see the Labor Council get active with?
Well, what I always say is after family and way before membership in my local, we're a community member. That's why it's so important to connect workers with the community. You can't be an active community member if you're always worried about if you don't have the economic security in your job. I would like to see the community recognize the Labor Council. I think we don't promote ourselves well enough. People get an image, what they think a union thug is or what somebody involved in labor is, and the Community Services Committee has done a lot of outreach to show the community that it's not a bunch of thugs and that we're just working people and we care about everything in our community.
We raise money at certain events through the year to give money to Feed My People Food Bank. We're a friend of the Ellie Phillips Library, and
we work closely with Jonah.
We
have some things. I can't even think. We do a lot of things. Actually,
the Alzheimer's Walk.
Yep.
And the dyslexia I know you guys have
The
been.
dyslexia, the Masons have a fundraiser every year, and we donate to that. We provide a pool pass for somebody every summer through that program. Just a lot of things that go unnoticed, you know, but the Labor Council is active with those kinds of things.
So that people don't think that all we do on the Labor Council is try to mess with politics. Yeah. You know, we are active in our communities because, like you said, we are community members as well. So now you sit on the board, Wisconsin's board, on the Wisconsin History Society, and also serve as a judge for that local history contest that's at the UWEC. What would you like to tell the audience about that contest or the society?
Okay. Well, it's the Wisconsin Labor History Society. I've been on it for going on 10 years now. The society convened in 1980 with their mission to promote outreach to students, to get labor history into the schools. And it took them a long time. That was the last bill that Governor Doyle signed on his way out, was to incorporate the teaching of the collective bargaining process into civics, social studies, and history classes. It was not a mandate, but it was incorporated into the education standards. I'm not sure what the correct terminology is. The beauty of it is I was attending a community services conference that's sponsored by the AFL-CIO, and I picked up a brochure talking about the Labor History Society. And I've always been kind of a history buff, as you know. And oh, what a beautiful history, labor history our state has, Wisconsin has. It's just, there isn't anything that has happened progressively for workers of any sort, organized or unorganized, that didn't start in Wisconsin, or Wisconsin didn't have a hand into promoting it or making it better. So we got the standard, we got the, not the mandate, but the, I don't know what it's called, into the curriculum, to try to get it into the curriculum. And the society's website has an endless resource of a bibliography. So educators can go to the website for free or very minimal cost. I think there's like a $10 packet where educators, teachers can go in there and look for lessons to bring to their classes, 4th grade through 12th grade. So, you know, specifically in Wisconsin, I think kids like to learn about that, and there probably isn't a child anywhere who doesn't have a great uncle or a grandpa or a dad that has,
or a sister
that could say something about their work and how their union affected them at work, their labor union. So one of the outreach programs that we have, that we offer for a dollar amount, is an essay contest for students in grades 9 through 12. You write a 500-page essay. Unions have been good for my family because that encourages kids to go and talk to relatives and just write a short little essay. And those essays are judged by one of the society members, and a cash prize is awarded. And
who judges it?
He's a professor at, he's going to be mad that I can't remember his name, at Green Bay, UW Green Bay.
It's a 500-word essay,
yeah,
right?
It's a short 500 page,
yeah.
500-word, yeah. Nobody would want to be
that
reviewing
would scare
a 500
yeah.
But you could write about it for 500 pages, I'm sure. And then the contest that you're speaking of is the National History Day, that is nationwide, 50 states, and our society offers a cash prize to any student who has a project with a American labor theme. So each year the National History Day has a theme for students to do their projects around. It could be a paper, a play. Now more of them are doing a website. And then if it has an American labor theme, it has the potential to win a prize.
And I know I helped you one year with that too, and I noticed there were some kids that they didn't do paper, they didn't do the speech. What they did was they kind of did a display, and
yes,
then they'd explain,
yeah, sure,
they'd do a talk around their display.
Mm-hmm.
And what kind of ones have we given the extra prize to in the past?
Well, unfortunately, like I said, the theme sometimes can encourage or discourage projects with that labor theme. So last year we didn't give a prize. I didn't bring any notes on that, but I can recall specifically one year there was a really good project about Thatcher and the miners when she closed all the mines in the early 80s. I can tell you also there was a very nice documentary made 2 years ago by a young woman from Eau Claire who did a report on the closing of Uniroyal, and lots of pictures of Banbury Place in her documentary, and she did go on to state. I don't think she won a prize at state, but she...
I thought I remembered a couple other
her grandpa,
ones.
she talked to her grandpa, she interviewed her grandpa for this documentary, and it was just a heart-wrenching, you know, if you're a labor history buff like me, to watch. Grandpa was really, you know, pleased to talk about it, and she just really did a really fine
Good
job.
I remember there was one about the Ford industry, but they didn't talk about the union that
Yeah,
year.
well, that happens all the time, and usually all of these projects, if the student was aware that there was a cash prize for a labor theme, they could just twist it and turn it a different way and come up with something.
And I thought there was one there that one year about the
Shirtwaist,
Shirtwaist.
triangle waist fire, yeah, yeah.
and the struggles in the garment industry. So it's really good when the kids get involved and learn those things, because it might be something that affects, like you said, either brother, sister, family, and to learn that. Otherwise, we're going to continue to have this disconnect with the young kids not thinking that, you know, oh yeah, unions had their day. We don't need them anymore. We need to change that. And do you feel that our schools are making a strong enough effort to teach labor history in the schools?
Well, not currently. I think that there's some intimidation for educators because of the climate that's been happening in our state since 2011, since Act 10. I know, I've talked to teachers, they don't really want to bring up the word union in their classrooms. But I also have, there's one person who is a 4th grade teacher on our Labor History Society, and she incorporates it into her classroom all day long. Her students write little articles for the South Central Labor Federation newspaper.
Oh, that would be nice. We could do something like that up here and get them into the Union Herald that's up here. That would be a nice way to incorporate some of those things.
Yeah.
And we have a very active WEAC
right
here. And
well, and WEAC recently has, I give the educators a lot of credit. They are really fighting back and keeping unity and keeping the focus on the best education for students in spite of all these budget cuts that K through 12 has taken. And they promote our Labor History Society on their social media things. So
that's good.
the president of our society is a WEAC member, so he's a WEAC leader.
Do you feel, this is one thing that I think about all the time, if we could put other candidates in office, can we reverse some of the damage that's been done to the 50 years of progressive labor history that we have in the state that has now been taken the other way? Is there some way that we can get enough people involved and in to reverse some of this?
That's a tough one, Lori. I think it can be done. The labor union, organized labor is the strongest, most funded engine for social justice there has ever been. You can't. That's facts. You can't deny that. So if you got people that promoted workers working with management and having a voice at work and protecting that voice with a labor union, and policymakers willing to come to the table and talk about it, yeah, we could reverse it.
And we need to reverse it to make our state great again.
But my fear is that people have gotten so worn down and so tired of it, and when you constantly are voting for somebody who doesn't win, or you constantly are trying and something gets taken down, or you're constantly doing a really good job and giving more, but your pay is less, people tend to get wore out with that, and they can't
keep up.
It's hard to go forward anymore. It's hard to stay optimistic. Morale is low.
Is there, and I know we need to start on a county level, the municipal level, then the county, then to replace people who won't listen to their constituents. And I think that somehow we've got to find the people that are willing to do it. You and I, we work a lot. We're involved in all these other things. And when it's gotten to the point where we feel we have to run so that someone has to do it somewhere. We have to start somewhere. We need to get more of the younger people.
Exactly. So people like you and I who are doing 2 and 3 things, we're getting tired too. And our bodies are wearing out. So we do need to include mentoring younger people and teaching them the importance of what you're doing into the groove, so we know that it will keep going.
So it'll carry on beyond us. Is there anything else that you'd like to add today, Judy, to let them know?
I wanted to add something I just read last night that I found really disturbing when you talk about state politics. That as of February 12th, all the Wisconsin Department of Corrections are at 130% capacity. I think that should be concern for people, that more of our funds go to incarcerate people than to education. And if our incarcerated institutions are bulging, you can imagine what the workers are going through when they're way understaffed and they have no voice at work. So I found that very disturbing.
Another one of the things that we definitely need to fix, the understaffing and the people, like I said, not feeling that they have a voice in their work for their own safety.
Right.
Today's program has been really good. I know Judy and I could talk forever and ever about a lot of these issues. My thanks to our viewing audience and to Judy, who made today's program possible. My thanks also to the folks working behind the cameras, who not only make this show possible, but give us an outlet for our union voices, which we are not getting on media. A final note, Labor Talks is on channel 993 twice weekly. And you can also use your favorite search engines, and with keywords Labor Talks, CVC TV, to help you find us on YouTube. We also have a Facebook page as well. So thank you for joining us today.
Chippewa Valley Community Television is made possible by continuing community support. If you would like to volunteer or make a donation, you can contact us by calling 715-839-5067 or on the web at www.cvctv.org.